but today, I try to keep the thing pretty close to on time. Today we're very lucky to have Richard Sheridan with us. He is going to come give us some advice since we are activists for truth, and he's been fighting the city council and John Lloyd Price and a lot of people for like 10 years. And he's going to give us some hands-on ideas of how we can be more effective, and he'll take questions. And this is Richard Sheridan, and we met him at the city council meeting. So,
Thank you very much.
yes.
She's got a lot of courage.
Yeah, well.
Before I begin, you mentioned this. I want your attention.
Yes.
I want your attention.
Attention, attention.
Give me $20 and bark like a dog. My name is Rich Sheridan. Before I begin, I want to honor Christmas. I said this before the city council on December 4th, and that was the day I was staying for 90 days. Christmas 21 days from now, Christmas is 2 days from now. And it's the most wonderful time of the year. A man came to us 2,000 years ago to bring peace on earth and goodwill to all men and women. However, peace doesn't happen overnight. It takes work. And I think it's a 5-step process. It starts off with love, and then truth, and then agitation, and then humor, and then peace on earth and goodwill to all men and women. I think you can mix that up. Agitation one, love another, humor, and mix it all up, but eventually we'll get to peace, but we have to work at it. There may be some other items, and there might be a 7-step process, but
How can we love the city council?
very good question. We can love them till death, and we can perform an exorcism on, which means annoy the hell out of them. Because there's hell in them. We have basically a moral issue. I believe there's demonic entities out there. I believe we have carnal entities. I think we're fighting a battle between good and evil. There's no question. Being brought up as Christian or Catholic, I no longer practice religion, but embrace a lot of the philosophies. And my understanding is it's a battle between good and evil. It's been going on for quite a while. That's true. So again, born in New York in 1946. 1945, I was conceived 4 months after Hiroshima. I think I was on the planet Uranus at the time, and we felt the electromagnetic waves coming and go. We got some major issues on Earth. So one of the angels came on the planet Uranus and picked out a few of us. We have some unique characteristics, 2 basic characteristics. So number one, we have very hard heads, and we tend to tell the truth as best we know it. I was brought up in the Catholic Church, grammar school, high school, and college, and it gave me a good foundation. I look at religion and church as basically giving you a sense of community, and again, in the Catholic religion, there's that rule, there's that discipline. Definitely instilled in me. Discipline life. My mother made sure I went to school to get that discipline to get ready for the world out there, because it's one brutal world. And went through the corporate America, basically advanced professionally, 13, 14 years, and then you could say it hit the fan, or I had some realizations that, I don't want to be part of this world, this establishment, this corporate America that tells you what to do, type of thing, and I dropped out. Like Dennis Leary said, turn on, tune in, and drop out. Not drug-wise, but turn on, tune in, and drop out of it. And I did that about 15, 16 years ago. I became a courier. I'm a professional engineer working for corporate America, $50,000 a year in 1970, which would be 1983, to becoming a courier for 13 years. You basically have a beeper, and you go pick up a package, and you deliver it over there, and you get a check, and you cash the check. You don't have a bank, you can't have a bank because I have issues with the IRS. I haven't filed an income tax return in 32 years. And some people say, oh, you're a bad guy. Well, again, I don't cheat. I don't cheat. There are people that cheat, and they got all this money. I don't cheat. I don't got any money. I'm basically a pauper. I filed an affidavit, and I was able to do a small claims against a couple of people, money people that don't care about the human condition. And I'm better for it. It makes you stronger. It doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. There's no question about that. Again, a very strong moral foundation. That's, and discipline. And getting up in the morning, serving your fellow man, finding opportunity, how can I help you, how can I help you, how can I help you. It's like Johnny Appleseed. One of my philosophies in life is, it's like with Johnny Appleseed. That I use a 3-seed principle. And he gives us all the seeds we want, but don't waste it. 1, 2, 3 seeds and you're out. I'll give you 1 gesture, 2 gestures, 3 gestures of love. And if I ain't getting anything back, it's like, hey, go in peace. I'll see you down the road. Maybe it'll be a week, a year, 3 years, maybe it'll be another lifetime. That type of fun. But never in any mean-spirited. Although sometimes you need to maybe bark at your fellow man. Hey, you know, you got some issues. In New York, sometimes New York is a little rough. But I use a metaphor of something on your nose. There's an imperfection. Something that harms you, harms the people that are in your life. And if you're the President of the United States, like George Bush, harms the world. So you got something on your nose, and I think you need to take it off. And if you don't take it off, I'm going to be yelling to the world, you got something on your nose. And that's what activism is about.
That's right.
Call them out for what they're doing to us. And more so than ever. More so than ever. I wanted to mention about, Jimmy used the word threat. I've been called out for threatening people, and I corrected Elba Garcia. She says, oh, you threatened me. Elba Garcia is part of what I call the Hispanic cabal in Dallas. You have a Hispanic cabal, you have a black cabal, and of course you got the all caps white man that runs the show in the city at 35% population. They control the city. All caps white. Not lowercase white, but you have to distinguish between all caps, the 5 to 15% that control everything, and the good white people like us. That the John Wiley prices cause a certain faction of the black community, whether it's 30, 35, to hate us. For no good reason. I mean, this is the man that said that the term black hole is a racist expression. Huh? Yeah, right. He gets away with so much. I'm deviating a little bit, but he gets away with so much because the white man, all caps, keeps him in power. Because he serves the white man's interests. The Inland Port is a perfect example. The Inland Port was going to bring tens of thousands of jobs to Dallas County, southern part of Dallas. Mostly to the black community. John Wiley Price stopped it because Ross Perot Jr. didn't like it because he's got Alliance Airport bringing in all the commercial goods distribution center as opposed to the Inland Port, which would take money away from Ross Perot. This is all a matter of record. Jim Schutz has written quite a bit about this. Jim Schutz, a good writer. I don't agree with him on everything, but he's got a book on John Wiley Price, Inland Port. And Tom Leppert, the mayor at the time, and Rollins, who paid Kathy Neely $350,000 for Price to promote his mayoral run. He's now the mayor. And I think he's worse than Leppert and Mayor and Miller before him. So we got major corruption in Dallas, but we got major corruptions all over the country. Boston, Washington, D.C. A little bit about fluoride. I have a master's degree in environmental engineering. We got it the year of Earth Day, 1970. That's when you had gross pollution. You had fish belly up. You had rivers burning up. And it was a great time because it was basic, obvious. You got too much sewage, industrial pollution. Figure out how to clean it up. And you have a assimilation capacity, so you don't have to do zero, but 90%, 85%. Yes, sir.
What kind of engineering is that?
A bachelor's degree in civil engineering, and then a master's degree in environmental engineering. It's a broad term, basically. It was wastewater treatment and the assimilation capacity of the lakes and rivers that the pollution went into. We started getting into a little bit of the hazardous waste. In fact, it was a hazardous waste project that was on in 1982-83 in California, General Electric, where they had a transformer repair facility, 23 acres. And back in the day, the way to get rid of PCB fluids was to dig a hole and just put it in the hole. This is all authorized by the health department. No problem. Now, fast forward, oh my PCBs, the cancer causing, oh my, it's a monster. So here you got in the Bay Area, San Francisco, and I'm the project manager on this confidential. General Electric wanted to totally define it before it was released to the public, right? We got the answer, no problem. There was a food plant, canning plant next door to this place. The news, we're over here at the well, it's totally made candy, we got PCBs over here. And the people go, oh, it's a monster in the Bay Area, it's a monster. Not really. But the thing is about hazardous waste, this could be hazardous. If I hold it over my head, drop it, it's a brick. But if you use it properly, it's not. So you get very emotionally involved, and then you get the politics and you get the money involved. And that's, I kind of left. I left California, wagon things, and came to Texas in 1981. But again, fluoride. It was in the textbook. You put the fluoride in the water. Because it's supposedly good for teeth. So fast forward, we accept it. I didn't even question it, right? The myth, the tradition. So when I started getting involved with local politics back in the early 90s, I'm like, starting to read about fluoride. What? I should have known, right? I'm a professional engineer. Well, I went before and said, hey, it's right. But here's something to understand. Some of these compounds, chemicals, never existed. So 10 years ago, okay? So they say, well, the concentration is so low, 1 part per billion, 50 part per billion. In drinking water, they came up with a lead standard in 86, just prior to 86, of 50 parts per billion. You can't have more than 50 parts per billion lead water. 4 years later, they go, oh, wait a minute, hold on. That's not low enough. It's got to be 15 parts per billion. So what's it going to be? They're finding out, feedback, right? Avogadro, great chemist, came up with the understanding of how many molecules are in this, let's say, a liter of water. In a liter of water, there's a trillion, because the Avogadro number is 6.023 times 10 to the 23rd, rounded off, it's a trillion. So in a liter of water, there's a trillion molecules of H2O. A part per billion of fluoride is 1,000 trillion molecules of fluoride. So you say part per billion, that's low. So when you look at it as a God, it's 1,000 trillion molecules of fluoride. But they'll go, oh, it's not going to bother you so. They're coming up with instruments that can now measure even lower than that. Back in my day, they couldn't even measure part per billion. Most they could measure maybe millimeter per liter back in the 70s, and they come up with mass spectrophotometer and all these kinds of instruments. The homeless. Regina had asked me a few days ago what I've been involved with. I look at what activists do is call it a battle between literally the politicians, what their agenda is, and what the people's agenda is. The constitutional issues are. So the homeless was a major one for me. That's what brought me out 10 and a half years ago to the Commission's Court. Because Laura Miller, the mayor at the time, is a Democrat, only a Democratic politician. Well, I thought the homeless was an issue for the Democrats, right? She's someone, just little Democratic girl from Concord, Massachusetts. Well, she used to be the one that would rail at the homeless, stop begging. She came out with all these laws. You can't have push carts, you can't feed them, you can't beg, you can't do all these kind of things. So I'm going, this is ridiculous. So the county and the city are together. The city a lot of times creates problems the county has to take care of. Like if they don't take care of the homeless properly, where do the homeless go? They go to the jail. They're not taken care of, they're not good hygiene, they go to the hospitals. I'll get into the relationship cost-wise. So I said, I'm going to go to the Commission's Court and speak to the Commission's Court. Maybe they could do something about this. This is 10 and a half years ago. They're in on it too. But you can go to both. Go to both, understanding what the authority and power of each one is. So the speech that I gave then, the wisdom, part of the wisdom there was from a Native American called Willie Whitefeather, who traveled around the country and telling a story about the genocide that occurred on the Cherokee Indians in the 1800s, when they were driven from Carolinas to Oklahoma, and smallpox infected, blankets put on them, and clubbing the women with the children. Incredible. So he said, The Europeans use a 3-finger ruling system. All right? The first one is, hey, everything's gonna be great. We're gonna trade, we're gonna prosper, we're gonna do real good. Then all of a sudden, the European goes to me, you did something bad. You're bad. I mean, what are you talking about? Where does the rule come from? You did something bad. And then Willie would go, and what's the next finger? You know what the next finger is. And what happened to the neighborhood? So I go before the city council 10.5 years ago, and here we are today with the homeless, and it's worse than ever with the economy, worse than ever. So before I get into more detail about the homeless, I want to show you this picture, because this picture came to me when I went through my trail of tears, my suffering. Basically, it shows the face of man, good and bad. And every one of us, to a degree, we have goodness and badness, whether it's 5%, 95%, that kind of thing. Come on, everybody, whatever. And there's two paths here. First, you see, it's kind of like the Earth, okay, in space. We started back here somewhere primitive, and now we're at a crossroads. We're either going to take the straight red path, Native American Indian, good straight red path. The child shall lead us. We do all that is good, and the family core, husband, wife, father, mother, and the child shall lead us. Now the other path is the crooked road, and a man is walking on this road towards that symbol that's on a dollar bill, the Illuminati symbol. I mean, he's just a material thing, and the man laying on the side of the road is the consequence of that man's actions. In this case, a homeless person. The lowest denominator is the homeless person. And homeless people are suffering more today than ever. The economy and the materialism, the numbers of homeless in every city is the highest I think it's ever been. So where does this path lead? Well, it leads to destruction. It leads to destruction. And I used this picture recently at Dealey Plaza with the occasion of JFK, because it hit me. My God, we've been here 2 or 3 times since I've been walking the earth. We were here with Kennedy in '63. Well, he stopped World War III with Khrushchev. I didn't realize the details of it. He worked a deal with Khrushchev. All right, we'll take out the missile silos in Turkey, and you take out in Cuba, all right? The Republicans knew about that then. If you forget about it, it might have killed them right then and there. So he stopped peace. We were there in '63. And then we were there with Syria. And now we're there with Iran. We're there with Iran. This is the time to agitate, to use the 5-step process, whatever step process you want to do, because we are at a critical moment in the history of our nation. Just like that great movie, The Day the Earth Stood Still. Remember, hey, listen, you can do it here, but we're here, you're not going to do it out there. You're not going to do it out there. I just want to pass it down. Take a look at that. My son did his interpretation of this in the Native American venue. And this was his interpretation of it. Native American, before the white man, before civilization. There he is with the buffalo, all that is good. Now here's civilization entering. Death, the railroad, metropolis. Oh, what is this? Mind control, spaceship. That was my son's interpretation of this picture. We're at a critical path in our nation's history, there's no question about it. Okay. So in the homeless, relationship between the city and the county. Dallas creates the problem. Dallas only gives a fraction of the amount of money necessary to take care of the homeless. All should be provided with shelter, basic shelter. For the hygiene of it, for the safety of it, for the camaraderie of it, for the hope that it brings. Okay? New York City came up with a law in the late 70s, realizing And you know, there's a pay later cost, which is about at least twice the pay before cost in jail and healthcare. So they passed a law in 1979. Every homeless person in New York City has to be provided with shelter. Every one of them. Now that comes with a cost, and the cost is $600 million. The budget of Dallas is $2.4 billion. $600 million, are you crazy? If you break it down on a per person per day basis, population 8 million people, 600 million comes out to 25 cents per day. 25 cents per day. Came with a little card here. And there's a cost of living up there, so maybe in Dallas it'll be 12 cents a day, 10 cents a day. Dallas at the time was given 2 cents a day, now 4 cents a day. So, and at that time I'm for raising more money. All right, let's raise more money. Let's have $40 million, $50 million from taxpayers in Dallas. Not realizing that the county was spending $100 to $120 million. It took me 2 years to get the number out of the county. And the way I got the number was Lupe Valdez on TV a year and a half ago, talking about the jail, saying that we have 2,200 beds every night reserved for the homeless out of a 6,800 bed facility, which ka-ching, at $58 per person is $44 million a year. Then you look at the health care costs. The county's unrecovered health care cost is $651 million out of a $1.3 billion budget. So you can do an estimate. How much of that $651 million is due to the homeless? So, all right, maybe 40, 50 million. Well, even better than that, there are homeless numbers that are out there. You multiply the number of times, number of homeless, and it comes out similar, within 30%. So you're looking at around 60 million for the health care, 44 million for the jail. Ka-ching, that's $120 million approximately. Spend half that amount of money, and you're doing it the moral way. You're going according to what the Bible calls us to do, or whatever religious scripture you go by. So this is where I'm today, and I'm working now with a homeless man who went before the city 2 years ago. A working man that just needed a place, a base of operation to advance from, save up my money. He drove an angel tree truck for the Salvation Army for 3 weeks before Christmas, saving up his money, staying at the bridge. And he gets there late. They wouldn't let him in. They took all of his stuff out. They put him back down the bottom in the grease pit. He went to motel his money. So Paul Turner and I are now working together. And this is hopefully what we're going to do. And maybe you participate. I'm calling it the Dallas Homeless Jericho Day. Jericho Day. Remember Jericho? They marched around the city because to go to the Promised Land, you had to go through Jericho. So on that day, I'm hoping that a lot of people, homeless people, will come and blow their horns. Maybe we'll even walk around the building. But certainly as speakers in the morning, speakers in the evening, to bear down on the conscience of the city council in mass, with the media there, maybe something will happen. Because it takes numbers. It takes numbers. Absolutely.
We need to live in our own. You know?
They can't take it with them, can they? They can't take it with them. And when they start realizing their mortality, like, ooh, maybe I should start doing something for the homeless. Maybe I should. This booklet here covers the last 10 years. It's a condensation. I got a bank box of information. This again was his first speech, The Homeless and Street Begging in Dallas County, April 8, 2003, and has a little comic here. It shows two homeless people falling under a bridge. One guy's got his rear pants bitten off, and one guy asks, "Good grief, Willie, dog get you?" And he goes, "No, Mayor Miller." Mayor Miller. Oh, I'll tell you. So that's been my primary focus for the last 10 years. Then you get corruption. John Wiley Price, serving the old caps white man. I think Regina, you've seen it, a couple others.
He's there, yeah.
That's yet. That's the other thing. 2.5 years ago, the FBI raided his offices on the day of the inauguration of the new city council.
So that was
2.5 years
John
ago.
Wiley Price, right?
That was John Wiley Price.
Because you walked-
And his associates, Kathy Neely, Daphne Fain, and 3 or 4 others. Where is it? Where is it? 2.5 years. My understanding is this: they worked a deal because they have to indict a high-profile white person if they're going to do it, right? Meaning a parole, or wrongs, or a lemon. Because they don't, there will be justifiable outrage in the black community, and not just John Wiley Price constituency, but the black community at large, and there should be. So what's the deal, Mr. Price? This is basically what I know. I could be wrong. I'm just telling you what I know, what I feel. You're not going to run for re-election, and this is going to go away. Huh? Incredible. So this is me. I've been banned 6 months, and then for a year. 2 dictators from the county commission's court. So I decided to protest. So this is me with John Wiley Price's mask, with mask, right? Right there on Elm Street with all the people coming, and then with the sign that says John Wiley Price serves Satan and the white man's, and the white man, Dow Citizens Council, Price and Perot. And by the way, this sign is kind of cool, because I like to have effective signs, the signs that you can easily carry around. So I took 4 poster boards, tape them together, wood on the top, wood on the bottom, with a rope, top and bottom, because you do both sides. And you roll it up, you carry it, you roll it down, you put it around your neck, hands free. Hands free. And the loop on the bottom helps 2 ways. Number 1, when you reverse it, right? And then with the wind, you get your foot. Because it's something this big, it'll literally blow you away. If you got skates on with a wind, it'll take you down the block. So through evolution, yeah.
Experience.
Yes. This is an article. I participated with the JFK anniversary at Dealey Plaza about a week before. Got to know Robert Groden, listened a lot to what's going on. And to me, the 2 basic facts that proved to me that there was a conspiracy was, number 1, the fatal shot came from the picket fence. Robert Groden has done a lot of work.
Do you know who was behind Kennedy assassination?
We'll get there. We'll get there.
So, you know.
So basically, well, I don't know if I don't know, but I have my suspicions. We don't know for sure. But the 2 things that confirmed the fact to me that there was a conspiracy was the Grassy Knoll shot, and the fact that Oswald and Ruby were together in Dallas a few times before, and also in the war. I mean, come on. Oswald and Ruby were together, and the shot in the Grassy Knoll, duh, and then there's so many other things. But to answer your question, to me there's 4 levels involved. You got the shooters, which I think were mafia. You got the local government, visible local government. You got the mayor, Earl Cabal, who was the brother of Charles Cabal, who was the assistant CIA director, general of the military, who was fired by Kennedy. You think the mayor like that? No. And you got the DA and other people, politicians. Then you got, that's level 2. The level 3, you got H.L. Hunt, Murchison, other local people, Edwin Walker, in secret behind closed doors, and then you got the federal government. So at least four levels. So it was a fascist cabal of military-industrial oil complex people that were interested in oil money, they were interested in keeping the war going, they were financial people. They didn't like Kennedy's 11-11-0 at all, where he issued billions in constitutional money. Kennedy was like, he was doing so much, which is incredible. I mean, I learned even much more in the last 6 months than I knew before, probably 50% more. But this man was doing was incredible. He had to be, to me, touched by God. I mean, he wasn't perfect. We know he had a problem with women. Excuse me. Yes. But what this man was doing, I mean, he definitely incited hatred for him in this city. Military industrial complex, oil money. Also, he wanted to make sure that Israel didn't get the bomb. What country is the biggest threat to our nation? Maybe Israel. And I'm not an anti-Semite. Thing is, you got the people, the majority of the people in Israel are good people, led by a Zionist government. All right? And then you have a group of evangelical Christians that support Israel's presence there and say the Palestinians are bad. I mean, Palestinians have issues, and Israel has issues. There's issues all over the place. Just
Israel got nuclear weapons from us in the 50s. I had a friend who was an Army intelligence
so that's not valid.
who trained
Right.
them to use the nuclear cannon.
Right.
JFK wanted to send the UN in to inspect Israel's nuclear facility.
So
JFK wanted to send the UN inspectors in to inspect the Israel.
So there was some pressure from Kennedy.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I read that somewhere, but in my write-ups, I kind of left that alone. I left that part alone. There's enough reasons why they killed him, that's for sure.
Had everything against them.
Yeah.
I think the top thing had to be the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the war, or the oil. Yeah.
Federal Reserve.
Federal Reserve.
And Kennedy was also, all he was really doing was what you were saying that you were doing in the early days. He was spreading the seed.
Yeah. Yeah, right. What else? Oh, yes, in this article, did I pass this article out? So the Dallas Morning News actually put me in their paper. I'm banned, up until a month ago, I was banned for 2 years from going in there building the press releases. Security guard, when I first said, you can't go in here. You can't go in here, we'll call the police on you. Okay, fine. So, when I was interviewed 3 or 4 times by different news outlets, this guy says, can I interview you? I said, well, what outlet are you with? And he said, the Morning News. And I said, very politely, I said, sir, you're not going to print anything about me. He goes, yeah, what about you? I said, sir, you're not going to print anything about me. Do you know who I am? No, he goes, do you know who I am? Yeah. I said, fine. The next day, there it is. I had a big hat, top hat, like a Lincoln hat, with the question, who killed JFK? Not too offensive, and I had my own literature that said, answer the question, who I thought killed JFK. And in there, a self-proclaimed extremist. I'm an extremist. You're an extremist. Because we are countering the lies of the government, the corruption of the government, and the lies of the media with the extreme truth. So we're saying it in an extreme way. We're not saying it gently. We're not going gently in the night. No, we're doing it right out in public. Hey, you're lying and you're corrupt. And we're not threatening you, and I'm not a terrorist, and I have a constitutional right to say what I'm saying. Okay? That's a fact. That's a fact. So I mentioned about the banning. This guy here, Mr. Carraway, is one of the, if you believe in the plantation, in fact, Dallas is the nation's still remaining plantation city, and they use plantation politics. I don't mean to be offensive, but he has betrayed, in my opinion, based on what I know, he's betrayed the black community. And I've been kind of slowly coming at it, meaning, you know, expose you, you need to resign, call on his office a couple times on the phone. Very politely, you need to resign. Well, that was terrorism. That was threatening. That was illegal. So he's calling for my arrest. He created a situation where I got banned for 90 days. I got banned for 90 days. I've been banned before. And Mayor banned me, Price banned me, hey, whatever. But this time, I had good documentation in terms of what was going on. I sent a letter, and in the heading had 5 different legal entities. It had the Attorney General of the State of Texas, had the local FBI, had the local U.S. Attorney, had Eric Holder, and one other, with documentation behind it. I met with the city attorney on Friday, this Friday passed. Well, I never got in writing I was banned for 90 days. I never got in writing that I'm no longer banned for 90 days. The city secretary had a conversation with me on the phone. She was very comfortable. I said, what's going on? She goes, well, it was a misunderstanding, Mr. Sheridan. It's a misunderstanding. Oh, it's a misunderstanding. Okay. So, when I meet with the attorney on Friday with his assistant, and I have my attaché case, I look like a lawyer, come in and put it down, open it up, put the document on the table, boom, boom, boom. And I go, you know, Mr. Ernst, I was very angry from your voicemail message, sir. I said, you're telling me, that was when Eugenia was there before, and there's a guy that he walks around and he has informed, if you're going to be a speaker, gives you one to fill out. Right? So in the beginning, I said, hey, Byron, give me one of those. Would you give me one of those? Like, I'm a kid. Of course you can't give it to me. I'm bad. Laughed. Well, 20 minutes later, he comes up to me. He just gives it to me. I'm like, what's this? I said, okay. So I filled it out on an agenda item that I would want to speak on. And I'm saying, I'm going to save it for evidence. Right? Save it for evidence. Came up. Well, the lawyer said, Mr. Sheridan, you were given a speaker card. I noticed you filled the speaker card out. The mayor called on speakers twice on the subject, and you didn't speak. So I'm saying, Mr. Ernst, you're telling me that that's the way the city told me that now I'm permitted to speak again? Huh? Sir? He didn't say nothing. He didn't say nothing. So his assistant kind of revealed something, because they know that this guy Caraway is something. The assistant goes, well, Mrs. Sheridan, because I had a list of remedies. Apology from the mayor, private investigation, outside investigation, FBI investigation, that goes without saying. Hope the FBI gets that. Remedies. He goes, well, Mrs. Sheridan, suppose there was some sanctions by the council on Caraway. Would that satisfy you? And I go, maybe, I don't know. So the attorney goes, and now Mr. Sheridan, don't construe that. We're not even thinking, we probably not, blah, 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 blah. Right? Oh, because they know that the guy has an issue. I said, right there, he's an embarrassment to the city. Hasn't Dallas been embarrassed enough? This is one of the most corrupt cities in the United States of America. I mean, you've got a list of 10. We could argue who's number 1, who's number 10. But this one, forget about it. So we're doing good. We're having a great Christmas. On the 21st day before Christmas, the 20th day, and the 19th day, and today, which is the second, my true love God gave to me, y'all. Y'all respect and be with you to share my truth. So God bless you now. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Absolutely. Appreciate you. Absolutely. Albert.
Merry Christmas.
God bless you. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. Nice to meet you.
God bless you. Now, if there's any more questions, it's going to be $1 each to answer.
Real money or fed money?
What's that?
Real money or fed money?
Yeah, whatever, right, whatever. Well, there is one other thing I wanted to give out. I wrote this December 2001. And Jesus' message to us this first Christmas of the new millennium. And I have extra copies and I have enough to hand out. The first part I wrote, then down here, is from a reference. Someone that you could say channeled Jesus' words or got the message from Jesus and put it in writing. So I wanted to give this to you because it's about materials. It's about what's life about? Gathering material things, or being on a spiritual journey and overcoming evil, and maybe even help bring back Satan and the fallen angels. Because without God's presence in Satan and the fallen angels, they couldn't exist, could they? Now I may be wrong about this theology, but hey Satan, are you hearing us? It don't work. It don't work. Greed don't work. Taking don't work.
Temporarily. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, one more.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Okay, so, we got a few minutes for questions, everybody. Okay, so what I'm gathering from you is you've got this project, the Jericho project, for for the homeless. And I think one of our friends had said something like, yeah, but if you're giving a handout to people, you know, is that just encouraging the situation? It was Aaron. And you were saying, well, some sort of a weed out process, the good guys and the bad guys.
Well, just like in the general population, there's good and bad, there's givers and takers. I would say in the homeless situation, 10 to 20% need real bad guy, good guy therapy. But I still think there should be basic shelters for all. But they may be 2 or 5, whatever number it is.
And you're trying to, and like, you're basically
It's
saying,
not gonna work.
there's money there, but it's not being allocated properly. That's the deal.
The city of
there's
Dallas,
money.
the city of Dallas, the taxpayers get about 5 million. But the city of Dallas gets 30 or 40 million from the federal government. And a lot of that goes to executives, salaries, administration, and their approach is to do permanent housing. To build structures
It takes so long.
and convert structures, it takes long, and they get tax credit. They get 5, 10, 15 million dollars in their pockets off the back of the homeless, where the homeless need shelter yesterday. They need basically a barrack operation, they need like a convention center with cots or whatever, a big warehouse.
The Army knows.
Showers.
That's what she said. The Army knows how to set up
That's what I'm saying.
facilities.
Exactly, that occurs to me in Veterans Day. What's the best organization to take care of the homeless? The military, because the military ain't gonna put up with the bad ones. Or the military, they'll put them in wherever they need to get them to respond in a positive way. Exactly.
Yes, but the city ends up with a percentage, with a couple of thousand or so, or whatever, going into prison anyhow. So if you've got a legitimate shelter, this 20%, as you say, that need to be weeded out, they're the ones that should be in there instead of those that don't need to
That's
be.
exactly correct.
So you may still have the same number, but it's the real bad guys that
It's a
should be
bad
there.
apples. As an example, the bridge, which I and a handful of ministers and activists, we got the referendum passed in 2005. It's a $23 million facility. $23 million to provide shelter for 300 people. $1 million to provide shelter for 300 people, and half of those people are on mats in a semi-outside facility, okay? For 1/3 of that amount, they could have probably housed 3 times you.
That's right.
Okay?
That's right.
So the bridge right now focuses only on the chronically homeless, which means the chemically addicted and the drug, the alcohol addicted. But they don't have adequate shelter facilities. So they're sleeping in the street, they go in there, they get this SSI, disability check, then they go to a motel for 3 or 4 days, they binge out, then they come back, and they're malcontents. That's a real issue. And you have a new homeless person coming in. You know what I'm saying? Lay down with dogs, you wind up smelling like a dog. The whole thing is a mess. What happens with wealthy people that have chronic addiction problems? They've been taken out of the environment and they're sent to another place
Yeah, fancy.
to basically get them to stand on their own 2 feet, get the chemical addiction out of them, and then you don't go back where you came from, where you got into the problem in the first place. So that location is ridiculous. It needs to be converted to a shelter for battered women and children, or a shelter for homeless women and children. But it's like the city, they're not going to change right now unless there's some major pressure from the public.
Are there
The
any
truth.
good council people in this area? Are there any spearhead people?
Well, in terms of the homeless, I think Scott Griggs has a heart for homeless. He was the one that did the changes in monitoring of the group homes. We basically have a home, and maybe 3 or 4 people live there, and they get some federal funding, whatever. Because that squalor, a lot of them are in squalor, taking advantage of a homeless person, mentally ill person, that sort of thing. Scott Griggs is good. Sandy Grayson, she's very good. She's very good. You can tell we got problems because it's not rolling.
What about the homeless shelters in the private sector?
You have about 4 or 5 in the Austin Street Shelter. They do 300. You got Union Gospel, 300 or 400. You got another one, 200. The thing is, you got 10,000 out there, and maybe there's 3,000 beds. Where's the rest? Where are they? Where are they?
Okay, so and I asked you before, I'm sorry, Jimmy has something, but I had asked you before, do you work with anybody? And you had said no, you don't do you actually, are there any organizations that are already doing some good work on this? Do you unite with?
I can't answer that. I think the main names are all in on it. It's like the homeless cabal. They're all getting their share of the money, like the gospel is involved and others are involved. So I wouldn't trust anyone from the get-go.
Okay,
Don't trust until they earn your trust.
yeah.
Because they all put out a great story. Oh, look what we're doing. In fact, I got to tell you about First Presbyterian Church.
First Presbyterian.
First Presbyterian Church is the stew pot, and they've been one of the longest homeless providers in Dallas, Texas. The pastor's name is Joe Clifford. Now, I met Joe when they opened up the bridge in 2008. And he's, again, the mayor's pastor. At the time, he called me John the Baptist. He called me, he said, I'm John the Baptist. Well, little did he know that 4 years later, John the Baptist would be out in front of his church calling him out for missing his calling. Because he said this to me, and I still can't believe it to this day. I brought in 2 different homeless people to tell them about the corruption of the bridge. And I did my own due diligence on the corruption of the bridge. And finally, in an email, he said to me, Rich, it's not the responsibility of the church to weed out corruption at the bridge. Well, our job is to go over there, they have the contract to do the feeding. And I'm like, huh? What religion are you? Oh. You know? Not the response. So with one of my protests, I had a flyer that basically said that Joe Clifford has lost their way, they've lost their way into the influence of politics, whatever. I'm standing there. A woman stops. And she goes, I'm Joe's mother. And I said, listen, I apologize. Can I give you one? I gave it to her. I mean, you know, I wasn't guttural, didn't yell, you know, I tried to be polite. By the way, in the protesting I do, I'm kind of a one-man show. I always let the police know, in fact, they want me to, where I'm going to be, how long I'm going to be there. Where I'm going to be, how long I'm going to be there. They like that. You want to have a good relationship with the police. Right? You don't want to give them cause to arrest you. You don't want to surprise them. Because they got to look good to their people. So I would always let them know and whatever, and it's worked out fine. I've got good respect from the police department. The plainclothes detectives, this one guy, Richard, he came up to me 3 years ago and he said to me, you know, Mr. Sheridan, he said, you need to conduct a seminar about how to conduct demonstrations and protests. Because you do good. You got to be polite. You can still be loud and be polite. You can still be
Strong.
with the signs.
I just have one question. Is there a difference between, okay, we know that some of the homeless shelters in the private sector have had their own issues with corruption, abuse, and I don't know
Yes.
if the bridge is it public or private?
It's public, run by a nonprofit organization. So the way the cities do things is they delegate it to another organization.
Okay, but it's
Like
not a
Congress,
church,
they
it's not
delegate
a
it to-
church-run thing, but I know
No,
some
no,
of the
the bridge is
church-run
not
things that have their
church-run.
own problems.
Not
Do you
church-run.
think that there's better accountability in the private sector than in the governmental sector?
Yeah.
It's the same?
I'm concerned, it's a corrupt mess. The homeless program in Dallas with public and private class, whatever, is a mess.
Today, without the land costs, I could build a 30,000 square foot building with 100 fully equipped bathrooms, that's commode and shower.
Right.
For about $1.5 million, and it would be an R50. It would be an R50.
Is that gross?
Just a minute, R50.
Listen.
R50 ceiling and wall, so your utility costs are going to be minimal.
Yeah. The thing I envisioned was a big building with partitions that you
This is
can
it.
divide
This is
it,
it.
roll
This
it
is it.
back.
That's it.
This
Yeah,
is it,
yeah.
but an R50. See, the problem is utility costs today are equivalent to what the house cost,
Yeah, really.
cost of so this would be an R50, and I'm talking about a real R50 wall and ceiling, and this would be a bulletproof structure. They couldn't damage it inside or out, and permanent color where it's never going to have to be painted. And it would have 100 bathrooms with showers and any kind of protection inside you want. It would be basically a Texas building with insulated panels.
Right.
that will be actually booked.
And what was the occupancy you came up with?
Well, I gave you square feet.
I mean,
How many
occupancy.
people?
30,000 square feet. How many, it's open.
How many
so
people?
How many people do you want? You want them per 100 square feet? You want one?
Well, in a 30,000 square foot facility, approximately how many would you have? 300, 400?
How
Well,
much
it
people do you
depends
have
on,
to give
if
them?
you're
This is
doing,
sleeping space.
you're doing a dormitory size, and then you're talking about, 10 square feet per bed is
Yeah.
a single bed
Yeah.
facility.
No, but the
Times
main thing is,
30,000.
for a fraction of the 23, multiple times what they're doing. It's a
Okay,
gross,
30,000.
gross,
30,000 people in single bed facilities. Or if you're putting family units in there, then you could probably put 10,000 families and each one be about 300 square feet. Now, that's
It's
a
a
real
billboard.
deal. That's a
the
day.
bridge is a billboard, it's a little good billboard. 23 million for 300 people?
No, this is $1.5 million without the land cost.
Right. I agree.
Elvis, zero there.
Well, that's not furnished, but you furnish it, you're talking about a few $100s per. To furnish it, unless you're gonna furnish it with bulletproof beds and everything, then that goes from there. But we're talking about a structure that would house 30,000 people, or, 30,000.
No, 30,000 square feet?
300.
300.
30,000, you're right. I'm doing like 3,000.
3,000 people.
That's right, that's right.
He's like
That's a lot of
300.
people.
Yeah.
The thing is, I've pretty much given up on the city. There's no way the city's gonna do what it's supposed to do. It makes more sense for the county to do it, because the county is spending $120 million a year with the jail and healthcare. So why not take over sheltering the homeless? They will see a direct decrease in their operating costs by taking care of the homeless.
Plus they look good. They get their little
Well, that too.
Joanne and I have.
But they're only gonna respond to money at this point, like you said. They're gonna respond to money, they're gonna respond to lawsuits. They're not gonna respond to God's calling, even though they'll say money. Money, and then maybe, probably not.
Why do you think they got you out of your mess and actually offered you us to sanction this guy, or what do you want us to do, because they're making errors in the They're over there, I think, before you got there.
I'd like to share with you a poem I wrote that fits in with your subject. It's called Watching Cars Go By. He sits beside the road and watches cars go by. A strong physique, a square-cut jaw, a handsome man for sure. His uniform is clean and pressed. He represents his peers. The medals prove he's brave. With chin held high, his pride still burns. There comes the medals prove he's brave. The kind of man they send out front to fight the wars they can. Old Uncle Sam, a heart of gold, whose men are pocket change, to spend them here and throw them there and bring them home in parts. Penny pensions, old Sam says, thanks, but now you must retire. To what? And how? His dreams shattered. His sweetheart slipped away. Can't find a job or pay the rent. So now he looks to you. His deep, sad eyes can pierce your soul and make his story yours. Began as boy, became young man, but now the bane of war. With chin held high, his pride still burns. I wonder for how long, sitting by the road, watching cars go by.
I'm glad you brought up the military, the veterans, because 25% of the homes are veterans.
Oh my God.
25%.
Those are the guys you hired to
Hey,
run.
look at the Afghan and the Iraq war. It's been estimated that by the time it's all done and said, between the military industrial complex costs, physical and mental stability costs, and the homeless costs, the only thing that include that, $4 trillion. $4 trillion. And this is the fate, this is the reward to the veterans? Homelessness?
You know what Joanne just said, it's a really good idea. She said those are the guys that should run the facility.
The military.
Oh, that's great.
Well, there's no question, because that came to me on Veterans Day with the military.
Now, And here's something, when you're putting a plan together for homeless, it can't be a one-fits-all kind of a facility, because we have a lot of experience with rehabilitation of drug addicts and things like that, and the success rate is, it's almost none.
Yep.
But you have to have a different kind of facility. Those
Yep.
folks,
Separate.
you've got a spectrum of colors, if you will, and each one has to have a different kind of facility. But this is a realistic number, and you know, if you built 8 or 10 of those facilities like that, you're now looking at my original number. I was trying to get to 30,000. You get to that number, but you have each one, and then the folks that select who goes to which facility, that has to be shifted. It has to be fluid. But that's something that should be a realistic thing to do in a realistic budget.
To go into more detail what you just said, yeah, there's 4 or 5 different categories of homeless. You got the chronic, drug addicted, alcohol addicted. You have the able-bodied men and women. You have mothers with children. So there's 3 or 4, right? Each one has, you can't put them all in one place. Because perfect example of laying down with dogs, you want to smell like a dog. You want to be next to a chemically addicted person, and a mother with a child, or an able-bodied guy. Paul Turner, he wound up becoming an alcoholic because he's hanging around alcoholics. Well, let's have a beer, let's have a beer. All of a sudden, you're having a beer every day, I'm with a tall boy every day, 2 or 3 every day. And I'm still dealing with him with this. When he's sober, he's great. When he drinks, oh, and I'm inviting him over tomorrow night for Christmas, whatever. But we'll see. Pray to God. I gotta be a bad guy at times, but then I'll be a good guy.
When it comes to addiction and alcoholism, I used to date a nurse who was so clever about hiding her alcoholism because she drank vodka only, couldn't smell it.
Right.
And she would snitch drugs from the hospital. Called me up in the middle of the night and said, I think I've OD'd. And I took her to the emergency room, and she had taken Haldol, which is a muscle relaxant, and when she'd taken too much, there's no antidote. Her heart would have stopped. So we sat there all night as she made it through that. But she finally got down, and this was what I was getting to Brookwood Lodges down in Hutchins, which is run by former alcoholics and drug addicts, and you ain't pulling the wool over their eyes. That's why it's so successful.
You gotta have
She got
people that know, have the wisdom,
Yeah.
discern. Oh, I know you're lying to me. I know what's going on here.
Yeah.
Regina, if I could just end with
Well, sure.
a poem.
Another.
Okay, this poem came to me back in 1981, 82, when I started going through my trail of tears, okay? And I have 3 marrieds in my life. My mother, my sister, and my cousin at the time was getting married. So the title of the poem is To Marrying on Your Marriage. If you look around, I think you'll see a lot of balls and chains. Sometimes our partners would be canes. We never thought it would turn out this way. We're all very sorry to say. As freely we wanted when we married, but we forgot to redefine expectations, roles, family commitments, mortgage, the dog. Will there ever be a better dawn? I know what our children see, and we wonder why they do. Sometimes we double standards so much, we really do lose touch. Sometimes they take their final breath to save them from certain death. But let's look at what marriage should be. It's an agreement, straight and simple, to keep the human race going, to keep the ideas flowing, to arm our children for the world, not with greed, hate, lust, and deceit, but with truth and love. They're so complete. But with these tools, they will build the road straight and sound to carry any load, and they'll bring us all one day to the place that we seek, where we are from, before we can reach. Thank you.
That's John.
We had Channel 4 British Broadcasting come in here, and then they went and did their dirty work. So we've been kind of smeared as well, the group has.
So in other words, they interviewed and they turned it all around, made it look better?
Yeah, and this one reporter, Paul Mason, basically he ended up with a quote from JFK's last speech that he never gave, where he says, "We cannot expect everyone to talk sense, but we can hope that fewer people will listen to nonsense." The way he used that was, case closed, don't investigate, let's
Oh, you
all
know about
move
the
along.
JFK?
And as if JFK is like quoting. Here's the last paragraph from JFK's speech, and I honor you with this, because I think we're in there. We in this country, in this generation, are, by destiny rather than choice, the watchmen on the walls of world freedom. We ask, therefore, that we may be worthy of our power and responsibility, that we may exercise our strength with wisdom and restraint, and that we may achieve in our time and for all time the ancient vision of peace on earth, goodwill toward men. That must always be our goal, and the righteousness of our cause must always underlie our strength. For as was written long ago, except the Lord keep the city, the watchman waketh but in vain. Anyway,
Good words, thank you.
Rich, from one watchman on the wall to another, greetings.
Yes, and he also said, here on earth, God's work must truly be our own. And God calls each and every one of us to our hearts. I can't tell you, you can't tell me, I need information given me, but only we individually know what we're supposed to do every day. And you give, and then you receive. You say right now, give it to me, and maybe I'll give you something back. Give and you receive.
Carter
That's all
has
about.
something?
By the way, I love your work in those Dos Equis commercials.
And by the way,
There you go.
here's my response to it, and it works 50% of the time. I don't often drink beer, but when I do, when you're buying, it works 50% of the time.
50% of the time.
Yeah,
That's
49,
That's
48,
funny.
whatever.
I thought it was real interesting in here, it said noted individuals who were once homeless. Buddha, Carey, Jim Carey, Shirley Chaplin, Kelly Clarkston, let's see, Troy Donahue, he's got two, Cary Grant, Earl Ives, I mean, Jesus of Nazareth, that's funny. David Letterman, Jim Morrison, I mean, there's a lot of people, Debbie Reynolds, Joan Rivers, William Shatner, Martin Sheen. I mean, it says in here,
Makes it
is
personalized.
there a future
One's
homeless
homeless.
person among Dallas homeless, you know? There's so much potential. I mean, it can really be, it's a good cause. Oh, and the Moriartys.
We got famous people here at home.
That's right, the Moriartys are homeless, really. Yeah, that's really
And us
true.
that list.
Yeah, that's right, yeah, on here.
Yes.
So this is just another concept, and you know, so think ahead. I mean, do you have any more of the yellow flyers?
No, that's
Okay,
just
okay.
I'll email it to you,
Okay.
how to make the correction.
And I'll bring some,
I'll
okay.
email it to you.
Okay, so it's the 16th, I believe, of January.
For signing up is the 16th, and the actual event is on the 22nd.
Okay, so I'm gonna make more of these flyers, it's just another one of those things, so if, also too, if Activists for Truth can be seen for what I want us to be, is an umbrella for a wide range of ideas and truth, and then the city will get to know us for that also.
Oh, I hope so.
We won't be
I
just
hope so.
pigeonholed into one thing, that all we are is about fluoride, or we're only about something, you know?
Oh, about fracking, they come out. Fracking, they go away.
Yeah, because it's.
80, 90 of them fracking. What about these other issues? No
Yeah.
fracking.
It all
And it's an
comes-
issue, it is an issue.
You stayed for both, that's right.
Good for
You were like.
That's right, I
one-
remembered you from the
Yeah.
fracking, right?
Yeah.
Gas drilling. Gas drilling.
Gas.
Yeah, gas.
Correct.
Public
Natural
health
gas
is a
drilling.
huge priority.
So one more thing, and I know it's time to go, but Albert has been very diligent, and he's very passionate about the fluoride because he was actually really just passionate about us getting involved in the city council because he's taken a lot of things to the city council. And that's when we picked up on, we made our decision to start with getting our feet wet with fluoride. But he's had some great ideas, he has some gems, and he's like, as we go on, like, we need to just call the city manager's office and say, I hear some people where they're talking about fluoride, you know? What are you gonna do about it? Have you looked into this, you know? Keeping the conversation open and having more people call and be involved. He's offered $200 to a plan of calling and being involved. Yes, sir.
And maybe find out about this contract. We need to get into the contract. How much is the contract?
If you can sit on the phone and give me $200, call as many as people you can, charge whatever you need. Let's call, all I need, 10, 20 people.
Right.
You know, to call. Today I called the city attorney, that was another item.
Right.
So it took 20 minutes they gave me to run around.
Oh.
Yeah, on
It does take
vacation.
time, guys. It does take time, yeah. They give you
And I
a-
said, every time I...
Annoying the hell out of them.
Yeah.
Right.
We gotta do something. I can't take this anymore. This is ridiculous.
So finally I got the attorney to talk to me, And that's what I said. I said there was some.
You got the attorney to talk to?
Yeah.
Warren Ertz, right? That's his name, or whoever.
No, everybody on vacation, I said, I need an attorney to talk to.
So, okay.
Yeah, so they brought an attorney, and I said there was a meeting with the city council. People spoke about fluoride. It's a poison, it's a drug. Now they're not only adding fluoride, they're adding lithium also into it. You know about that.
Well, they've talked about wanting to put lithium.
No, they already did. When they tell you they wanted to do it, they already did. Yeah,
You've
so.
heard about lithium,
Huh?
to make people more calm. That's what they're
All
saying.
this drug, I
I
say, what you gonna do about it? I said, that's a crime against society. He say, fluoridated water, and he started laughing. I say, you just insulted me now. What was so funny about that? You know?
But now remember,
Right.
it's part of the tradition. I accept it. It's accepted out there, like
I
Santa
don't
Claus.
accept it.
No, I know you don't, but
Yeah.
most people like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
They don't mean disrespect either. They're
Right,
kind of
right,
like,
right, right.
I never heard this before. So we have to, be a little bit
Educated.
more
Yeah.
patient. And by the way, patience came to me recently. Certainly patience is a virtue, but patience is knowing how to dance with God. And the Japanese recognize the God presence when they bow to each other, and I think Jesus told about the God presence. So it's either learning how to or knowing how to dance with God, which means your fellow man. And if it don't work out, you can't work out, then I'm gonna go down the road. Because I don't like the way you dance, or you don't like the way I dance. That kind of thing, with all due respect, move down the road. But knowing how to dance with God, knowing how to dance with your fellow man and fellow woman. And if it don't work, then you just go down the road and dance with someone else.
So one word here, one word there, and he telling me that he cannot give me a legal advice. I say, am I begging you for legal advice? I say, I'm a pro se litigant. I can be held to the same standard of attorney. I don't need an attorney.
Right.
So I said, now, by what authority the city council and the mayor of Dallas allowed this fluoride to go into the water? Is any one of them are scientists, or do they have a medical license to practice anything like that? He said no, you know? And I said, so what are you gonna do about it? One word here, one word there, he hung up on me.
He hung up? He actually hung up on me.
But I will call again, I mean, he's
And
not
I
the only
suggest, and I
attorney.
do this all
But
the
we
time,
need-
people,
but we
record
need-
your messages.
Yeah,
whenever
we
you
need to
talk.
call them, you know, we need to call them, as they use the word, you threatening me and all that.
I'm not threatening you, I'm putting you on notice.
No, no, no.
I'm letting you know
You
what
use
I
it.
will do if you don't do this.
You
I'm not
use
threatening.
that word first. I did it with the TSA.
For you.
I did it with different governmental agencies.
Right.
I say I'm threatened by your behavior and by your attitude. That's mean you violated some rights that I have.
We're threatening me.
Yeah, I say,
Yeah.
before they say anything,
Right.
before they say anything, I say I'm threatened by this and by that. I have a letter that I sent to the TSA. I'll bring it next week. You're welcome to have a look at it. It's been put in a professional manner. You know, I'm not an attorney. I don't have any education, but I study everything on my own. So I copy a lot of things from attorneys, but I take one part here, one part there. I put everything together and it looks good.
There you go, you do a good job.
Perfect.
And
But
Richard's
now
said,
let's stay
one
on
more
this.
thing.
Can anybody volunteer to give a call tomorrow? And if they ask you, give your name,
It's
say I don't
Christmas
want to
Eve,
give
I
it
don't
to
think
your.
with
they're
due respect, it's Christmas Eve.
Huh?
Sometimes you leave things alone.
I don't know if they're open.
So we
It's
leave it.
Christmas Eve.
Okay.
Right. They always say you gotta leave them laughing, like George Costanza. You wanna leave them laughing? What do cockroaches, politicians, and lawyers have in common? There's too many of them. Here's another one. Cockroaches, politicians, and lawyers have in common.
Too many, too
You
many.
gotta tolerate a certain number. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Meeting is adjourned, but we'll still continue talking if you want to.